Change of scenery today. I'm up in Brisbane filming our crowdsourced funding video, but I'll tell you more about that at the end. Today I want to talk about tokenmaxxing, which is a word that has become popular in recent months as people start to feel the squeeze of rising token costs and reduced rate limits. In simple terms, tokenmaxxing is a strategy of aggressively maximizing the consumption of tokens. And people do this because they believe that throwing more compute at a problem results in better outcomes. In fact, some companies have even created leaderboards which show which employees are consuming the most tokens, and they wear these rankings as a badge of honor. VCs and big tech companies are encouraging employees to consume as many tokens as possible. There are even reports that employees are being disciplined or fired if they're not consuming enough. Even Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says he would be deeply alarmed if his $500,000 a year engineer did not consume at least $250,000 of tokens a year. But tokenmaxxing is a horseshit idea that big tech is pushing to try to shame employees into AI adoption. And to explain why it's so dumb, I want to go back to the history of aviation. Commercial aviation started about 100 years ago. In the 1930s, flying from Sydney to London would take 12 days. But by the 1950s, that had been slashed to 3 days. And in the 1960s, it was 30 hours. So if you asked anybody in the industry back then what the future was going to be like in 5, 10, or 15 years, they would have been convinced that it would reach 8 hours. And to do that, Europeans, Russians, and Americans all invested heavily in supersonic travel. The British and the French had the Concorde, the Soviets had the Tu-144, which was dubbed the Concorde, and the Americans had a program called the Boeing 2707, or the SST, supersonic travel. The whole industry was aligned to the belief that air travel would just get faster and faster. But then physics and economics got involved and the technology hit a wall. The problem is that the energy required to make planes go faster doesn't scale with speed. In fact, the faster you go, the harder it is to go faster. So in practical terms, every bit of extra speed gets progressively more expensive. And that meant that the Concorde burned 7 times more fuel, but was only twice as fast. So now there was a limit to how much output you could get from your input. Now, fortunately, while half of Boeing was off playing the supersonic game, there was one engineer named Joe Sutter who was going the other way. He was building something quite unfashionable, a subsonic jet. Now, initially, even Joe wasn't particularly keen on this idea because he, like everybody else, was convinced that supersonic was the future. The real visionary here was Juan Trippe, who was the founder of Pan Am. He knew that even if the entire passenger market were to shift from subsonic to supersonic, there would always be a subsonic freight market. And that's why the 747 has a hump, because it allows the planes to be also used as freight planes by opening up the cockpit so that the nose could swing open and load cargo. So the most iconic passenger aircraft in history was designed to be a freight plane. Now, during the 1970s, there was a massive oil shock, and all of a sudden, aviation fuel wasn't quite so cheap. So spending 7 times more for a 2 times return became a really dumb idea, which brings me to tokenmaxxing. Earlier this year, when I started this channel, everybody was convinced that the AI industry was going in one direction. Bigger, more parameters, more data, more GPUs, trillion parameter frontier models humming away in hyperscaler data centers. The models got larger, the token windows got bigger. And then, guess what? Our 2 friends, physics and economics, decided to show up again. Now, you might feel that AI today is cheap, but it's actually ridiculously expensive. Pushing a massive number of electrons through chips is expensive, but it gets even more expensive when the chips get too hot, because you then need to spend more money to keep them cool. So it turns out at some point, going faster becomes more expensive, just like the supersonic planes. And look, I know there are still people out there who are convinced that somehow AI is different from all the other technologies we've ever seen. But let me assure you, it's no different. Yet in the last few months, we've started to hear this term tokenmaxxing. This is a controversial workplace trend where employees try to consume as many AI tokens as possible to demonstrate their productivity. People are displaying their token usage as a status sign, which I find very strange. The whole idea of tokenmaxxing is flawed because it's focusing on the input rather than the quality of the output.
I am going to probably use $300 million of Anthropic this year.
And that's all fine while the input costs are cheap. Using 7 times more of something that costs nothing is irrelevant, but using 7 times more of something expensive, like energy, is usually a really bad idea. So token maxing is simply rewarding the inefficient use of resources. Throwing more and more energy at something will only work up until a point. Back in the 1960s, the entire industry believed that air travel would just keep getting faster. It didn't, and the same is true for the AI industry today. It turns out we didn't need the Concorde, we didn't even need supersonic. What we needed was the 747, which is the very thing that nobody in the industry wanted to build. Entire industries have been wrong before, and they'll be wrong again, and that's why I think big tech is wrong about AI. It won't be about big models that live in the cloud. It will be about small models that run on device. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe. And if you hang around for another couple of minutes, I'll give you a sneak peek of the video that we've been filming to talk about our upcoming raise. Hi everyone, I'm just recording a quick video to show you where we're filming our crowdsource funding video. We actually found this beautiful miner's cottage in Spring Hill and have rented that out for the day. It's a beautiful property. I just want to quickly show you what it looks like. It was actually built in 1847, so it's one of the oldest houses in Brisbane. Hallway with a lovely fireplace, which we're going to make great use of. Really beautiful outside area. What's interesting, of course, is that this is Brisbane in winter, which generally doesn't get that cold. So it's interesting that they put a fireplace in here, but Brisbane mornings in winter can be a bit chilly. But as you can see today, the sun comes out and it warms up with just an absolutely magnificent blue sky. So, you know, what a wonderful day to film and what a wonderful property to film in. So we'll do most of the filming today in front of this wonderful fireplace, beautiful natural light. It's going to look amazing. So we're kind of... Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.